those are the main characters, and I like all of them. But one of my favorites was Bubba.
Oh, well, thank you. That just kind of came to me one day. I was thinking about that scene in Men in Black when they take Will Smith into the Men in Black headquarters for the first time, and you see all the pictures on the screen of Americans who are actually aliens. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, Elvis was a vampire. It just made so much sense. Oh my gosh. And I thought of about 10 more Americans that I could probably remember. But Alan is not going to use Bubba in the show because he said, if I did, I'd have short stories from now on, non-essential information. Got it.
Most of us are always anxious for your next book. Would you be willing to tell us which author does that for you?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. I love to read Lee Child. He's one of my favorites. I love Robin McKinley. I love Connie Willis. Barry Eisler is one of my favorites. I love Linda Howard, but I'm way behind on her. There's so many writers. I read all the time. I read probably 4 books a week over there. And I'm always wanting to get hooked because to me, that's the most wonderful thing is to find a new writer and to just enjoy her so much. I love Rob Thurman's books. Of course, I read Jim Butcher. He and I have like an unofficial contest going over who can do the worst things in their vocabulary. I think I'm winning. But Harry, poor Harry. Every book he emails me and says, I can't believe you did that. And then every time I read one of his books, I go, oh, I can't believe you did that to poor Harry. Would you please just let him? Never mind, I won't tell you what. We really have we don't email each other that often, but we do email each other back and forth every now and then, and that's a lot of fun.
Love that.
When you read, do you read with a scholar's eye? Are you studying them?
I try not to because that can really ruin a good book if you're constantly spotting what you perceive as mistakes in pacing and plotting. And I just hate it when I know who the murderer is before the end of the book because that's the only person it could be. I'm going, oh, come on, you can do better than this. If even I can see it, you should just do it a little bit better. Because I try really hard to just be an uncritical reader. But every now and then my writer's pitch will surface and I'm going, oh, that was a big mistake. Or I'll say, oh, well done, well done. There are some passages I read over and over because I find them almost perfect examples of writing, and I love to try to find out what the writer did that made it so magical. Yes.
I'm Linda. About a year ago, my daughter said, Mom, you gotta read this book. It's a vampire book. It's so funny. Oh, not another vampire book. Oh, but you gotta read it. So it took about 3 months to talk me into reading Sookie. I read all of it.
How does it go?
Absolutely hard. I read all Harper Connely, but one book, the last book, finally found it today. I started on Aurora Teagarden. I read her first book this week. I want to comment on Aurora, the very first book. You made the statement that horror writers are very relaxed people. I bet after you finish that book, you are a very relaxed person.
I beg your pardon?
After you finished the first book of Aurora, I bet you were a very relaxed person.
Oh, I know. I've killed a lot of people in that book. But, that's what made it so much fun to write. was a lot of fun to write because, and then I realized I'd exceeded the boundaries. It was intended for a cozy mystery or a conventional mystery, but then, you know, it had some really awful moments in it. And so it didn't really fit. So they ended up calling it a cozy with teeth. I found it, you know, a really good description.
So does it hurt you when you have to kill off a character you like a lot? Are you more merciful?
No, I love doing that. There's a bigger emotional payoff. You know, you go, oh, they're really going to get upset. Yeah, I hated killing off Gran in the first book because she was really sweet. But then she just had to go. She was in the way. And I just had to get rid of her. But then I thought, well, I'll just give her a really good send out, you know, so I did. It was just awful. It was really hard.
One question. We only have a few more minutes left. Okay, yes.
I really like in the pilot episode of True Blood where Grant is reading an Aurora Teagarden book.
Yeah,
That's really funny.
Yeah. So I've got to say, I say thank you, Alan, just about every night. But I thought that was really neat. I enjoyed that.
Actually, I have a pacing question. How do you get the right feel for pacing? How do you know how to, do you try to aim for a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter, or do the chapters break with the cliffhanger?
Ooh. My chapters tend to be about 20 pages long. That seems to be my natural writing rhythm. I don't always have a cliffhanger at the end of each chapter, but probably about 1 in 3, I do have a carryover. Sometimes they just end naturally when people are concluding their day. Sometimes it's always fun to start a chapter in the morning when she gets up and little knowing what will befall her that day. Because I'm really bad about letting awful things happen to Sookie in her own home. But I don't outline. Everything just sort of happens. Lately, I've started putting sticky notes on the wall that just say, don't forget this, or you have to tie up that, just to remind myself, because readers do bring up plot points that I raise and don't close, and I think, oh yeah, I need to slam some doors shut before I open others, so I am trying to remind myself to do some of that.
I have one. Your books often take place in a very short space of time, which some readers don't realize until they go back and look at them again. Do you find that limiting, or do you find it easier to remain within just a narrow window of time when you're writing?
Oh, I find it easier to keep the window of time very tight, because I think that keeps the suspense wound up. I know there are books where people say, for a month, nothing happened, and I'm thinking, you can't go back from that month. I mean, you can't do the whole month. But I do try to keep it pretty tight so far. The 10th book, the opening, does not take place immediately. There are several short chapters that are moving Sookie's progress along in her recovery from the end of the last book, until the action of the new book begins. So it's a different structure, and I found it a little interesting to do something different.